Welcome to another episode of Pistons of Fury. In this episode, we're replacing the master cylinder and all the brake lines in the engine compartment before the LS goes back in the wagon. Okay, so we have everything mostly assembled. Quick note, my new master cylinder came with this, essentially it's a rubber stopper, and it goes in here, so when you force this in, it keeps it from backing out. That said, when you're reusing it from your old master cylinder, it's a total pain to get out, so make sure you actually pull this out of the master cylinder before you remove anything from the car. Unlike what I did, so I actually removed my old master cylinder, had to basically take a, you can do it with a slide hammer and a vise if you want to go that route, but for me I just took a propane torch and heated the inside of the master cylinder and essentially just burned or fatigued this rubber bushing, and then was able to just pull it out by hand. But total pain, do it in the car, because if you leave it in the car and you disconnect your brake switch, you can basically just pull the brake pedal all the way back and use the natural leverage of the brake pedal basically as a lever, and it just pops right out. So lesson learned there. But anyway, got this all cleaned up, got my new rubber grommet or stopper that came on here, so we just need to install it in here, and then this is the bolt that basically locks it back into the brake pedal. One thing I am going to be doing is reusing this rear proportioning valve. I have a distribution block up front which does my front to rear split, but you need a little bit of fine-tuning when you're changing the brake system. So the disc brake system that I have in the car is from a later model, so I just need a little bit of variability. What I might do, and actually something cool I've seen, is this mounted in the cabin, kind of up under the dash. So I might look into doing that, or I might just mount it out here somewhere near the brake master cylinder. But we're going to reuse that. The rest of my lines and everything is all junk. We're going to move away from that and install new stuff. So we're going to get this put together, and then I've got to tackle my, essentially the Firewall backing plate that I painted. So I've got to sand that down, color sand, buff it, reinstall in the car, reinstall this, and then we're looking good on the Firewall for the brake stuff. So little things, just a whole lot of them. Okay, so next up in the project is, this is kind of a job that's self-inflicted. I took apart a bunch of the brake lines, replaced the master cylinder because I didn't like how it was kind of rusty and kind of crusty. I just actually didn't like how I had the brake lines run before. So here's what we're going to do. We have this Summit proportioning valve from the original build. This is going in the car now, and it's going to go under the dash, so you can actually adjust the rear bias on the fly. And, you know, for instance, if you ever wanted to maybe turn off all the bias to the rear brakes and just have the front brakes work for some reason while you step on the gas, you could do that. So we're going to do that, but that also requires one line to go through the dash or the Firewall, under the dash, and then out, and another line to come through. So we need two grommets to go into the Firewall. So I picked these up from Ace, which is the only place you can get this kind of stuff, really. And I got these two grommets for my 3/16 brake lines, so I'll punch those through. And yeah, let's go over to the car and take a look at this. So we've been kind kind of busy behind the scenes, just trying to do all the little stuff that's required to get this build going. So I started just positioning some of the line. I have some new fittings for this master cylinder because no master cylinder comes with just regular 3-inch threads. Got to get something special for that. So I started bending this line. I'm going to go ahead and finish that one, but I need to pull this old line out of here and clean up that proportioning block and get started on that. I also kind of reran my fuel line, so I am going to be doing a flex fuel sensor, so I'm going to mount that kind of right in here, right on the Firewall. I have a bracket coming for that. So really just wanted to get all this Firewall stuff mounted. I wanted to get P-clamps set up there if I have to mount that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it's just, I have to do it now before I get the engine back in, otherwise I'm going to be crawling around here and hunched over the car, and it's going to be a real pain to get it mounted and looking really good. So, got to pull these old lines off, and then we'll start to fit in a new one. I have a 5-foot line that goes essentially from left to right and follows all the contours and bends, so that should be a fun one to make. But yeah, we're going to get this looking all clean, get it set up right. At some point I need to bench bleed that thing, but might be doing something special with the front brakes too. But anyway, goal here is to get the fuel line and the brake line kind of pinned up on the Firewall, mounted with the little insulating P-clamps, finalized so that I don't have to go back there and do that again once I get the engine in. So that's what we're doing. Let's get started. Alright, update time. So we have the front system almost fully connected again. So I am missing one piece right down here. That's just an adapter that goes into my block, the distribution block. So for whatever reason, I think the OEM lines probably just had different ends on them. So these Napa lines with these, whatever the standard end that comes on a 3/16 line, I'm having to adapt it up here at the master, and I will have to do it at the bottom, so I need to figure out what that is. Let's see, the other one, basically had to remount my distribution block, so I just located it in a slightly different place because my motor mount that I welded to the frame interferes with the path that the driver's side brake would have taken. So OEM line there, it's fine, it'll be okay. But I did make a brand new line that goes all the way up here, across, uses my stock tabs, and then comes through. And then I actually used a grommet, so the line that I had wasn't actually long enough to go under the frame rail, which would have been the OEM fitting. You can see there's a little indentation there for it. So I ended up just drilling out that hole and using a grommet that I had, and that goes out into the wheel well, which I will try to show you. It's a little ugly. This is my least favorite part, but I think if I undercoat it and yeah, just paint it black, then maybe it'll go unnoticed. So that is the progress so far. So that was probably the easy part. The hard part that I have to do now is find a place to punch into the Firewall for 2 holes that are going to be my rear bias controller, my proportioning valve that I mentioned I'm going to be mounting under the dash. So need to make a little bracket that'll get mounted under the dash, and then I'll run those 2 lines that I have and probably coil them. And then I've got my rear fitting right down there. That. So we'll go in, we'll come back out, we'll go right to the rear thing. Rear lines are all good and set up, though I do need to rebuild those brakes back there. So anyway, that's it for today. I'm going to come back in here tomorrow and start on hopefully getting the rears done. So good progress today. Got front brakes reset up, fuel line rerun. Oh, another thing I didn't show you guys, which I don't know if I can, I'll do it before the end of this video. I will show you what I did with my regulator under the car. I actually mounted a kind of a, I guess a T-piece to it so I could have a fuel pressure sensor. So Holly needs a fuel pressure sensor. I'm going to be running pulse width modulation on my fuel pump, so I need the fuel pressure sensor so that I can kind of just regulate and keep it a steady state. Anyway, that's a different video, but that's it for today, and we'll be back tomorrow to finish this up. Alright, little update on my progress. So I drilled 2 holes in the firewall through my brand new paint and wasn't even thinking, and the top hole is actually a little bit higher than my master cylinder. So that's okay, you can make it work if you have to. But I think what I'm going to do is just grab a little rubber plug and plug the top one, and I'll drill another one down here so that both holes are below my reservoir. So if you have to run brake lines above your master cylinder, you kind of lose the ability to just gravity bleed. It makes bleeding a lot harder, and then you also run the risk of having a higher line drain back into here, so you need some sort of valve, like kind of a one-way check valve in the system. I think Willwood and some other providers sell them, just to make sure that that line does not bleed back into here and allow air into the system. So in order to avoid all of that, I'm just going to plug this hole. I'll drill a new one down here. So I'll use this as my top hole. So basically, top hole is coming out. It's going to go into my proportioning valve under the dash. And what I've done here, the last part you just saw was me adding this new end. So this is I guess a 3/16 brake line end that you can buy, which is specific for this Mopar master cylinder. They use kind of non-standard. I don't know why they don't just use regular 3/16 line ports on the master cylinder, but they don't. So you got to make your own, or get custom lines, or whatever, or find these little adapters. So anyway, this is just kind of a plumbing plumbing nightmare, just in terms of finding the right connectors and adapters. But once I got it all together, actually I'll throw the adapters and the sizes down in the description as a helpful pro tip to all you guys who find this video in multiple years from now when I've recorded it, and hopefully it helps. So anyway, plug top hole, we're going to drill another one for the bottom hole, and we will keep going. It sucks that I put a new hole in my firewall that I just spent all that time and effort to get cleaned up. But anyway, that's project life. Measure twice, cut once, moral of the story. So we're going to get moving, and now we can install this and bring it inside the car to plumb to the proportioning valve. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is I've bent up this little bracket, drilled some terribly placed holes. I don't know why my brackets are not getting better in this build, but anyway, it's okay, it'll work. So what we're going to do now is basically put this under the dash, so it's going to sit on the bottom lip of the dash, and basically this will kind of point down, so when you look at it from the side, this is kind of angled down toward the floor. This sits up in the dash, and we have our brake bias valve mounted kind of out of the way, hopefully not too visible, and then I'll just finish running my lines here in and out, and the brake system will be done. So I got to go into the dash, just get this welded into place. It's the easiest thing to do. It'll be kind of out of view, so tried playing with bolt holes, but there's a bunch of brackets and stuff in there, so we're just going to get this welded in place, and then we should be good to go on this guy, proportioning valve. Okay, brake job is more or less looking complete. I am missing one little adapter right down there, which goes into my distribution block. I actually think I'm just going to get another end like I did with this right here, and basically just reflare that. And I'll probably come through and reflare this one. I did get this other blue end that kind of replaces that. These are basically just new ends, but for 3/16 line, so they adapt to this master cylinder. So I'll probably do that, clean that up, get this old brass one out of here. So then we'll have a nice fitting system. So basically just came through, I didn't do a loop, I guess a safety loop on the return line from the proportioning valve. I guess my thinking is there's enough slack in the system that it should be able to accommodate. So basically what I have down here, let's zoom out for a second. Yeah, right there. So this is my rear line. I'm going to put a P-clamp here to secure that, and then this will just connect when I get that correct hose end. So that's all good there. So yeah, looking pretty clean, pretty OEM-ish. So pretty happy with how that turned out. And then if we move over here, under the car, or I guess under the dash, which is my official favorite place in the world. You can kind of see the only potential issue is the steering column. You can see I had to make a really tight 90 degree there for the proportioning valve. So the line kinked a little bit, but I should be able to get that figured out once I get the system bled. And just as long as I've got pressure to the rear, everything is good there, so that's no big deal. So they go through, got the grommets installed, and we should be good to go. So now, it's pretty much the last thing. I just wanted to make sure I had that done while I could still move in and out of the engine bay. So we've got to move on to getting the engine back installed. So that's next up. I got to get my torque converter mounted, get those two things, these guys over here, paired together, and yeah, we're gonna stab this thing back in and start making some real progress again. It's just all these little projects that keep piling up, but we're trying to check them off. So we'll keep moving.